Okay, so when Battlefield 4 started working well, I literally started unlocking all the multi-purpose weapons first. So I obsessively unlocked the shotguns, then the DMRs, then the carbines, and now I'm doing a video to discuss my thoughts on all these weapons now that I have a lot of trigger time with every single one of them. So, starting with shotguns, because that is the first thing I unlocked. The very first shotgun the game gives you is the QBS-09, and it's actually a really good shotgun, and probably the best shotgun in the game because it does the highest damage output of any of the shotguns, or at least it's tied to it, and it's semi-automatic and tube-fed. So there's almost no reason to carry a pump-action shotgun in a close-quarters gunfight over this thing, because this thing does the same amount of damage, if not more, than all of the other competing pump-action shotguns, and it's the first shotgun the game gives you. So there's a lot of pluses to that if you're a shotgunner, because when they give you this gun, you really could stick with it for the entirety of your Battlefield career, and that would actually be kind of okay, because this gun is actually really good. The only downside to it is that it has a low capacity of 6 rounds, and it's a tube-fed, you gotta load one shell in manually at a time. But, you're kind of used to that with shotguns, and if you're used to pump-action shotguns, and going to a semi-auto is pretty easy. And yeah, this gun handles incredibly nicely, and it's really good for, if you're the guy in front walking like through a hallway, this is kind of the gun you need to just like spray and pray, because the rate of fire is so good. And then if you have a good secondary firearm, you'll be pretty much covered in a lot of situations. So once again, if you're a shotgunner, this is really the gun to go with. I would pick this over the 870 or the Spaz or even the Hawk 12. The Hawk 12 is a magazine-fed pump that a lot of people like, but honestly I'm not into it. So I like to go with the extremes with all the weapons. So the QBS seems to be a really good semi-auto shotgun, but the UTS-15 is really a shotgunner's dream, because it is a pump-action shotgun, which in Battlefield 3 I preferred because it has that Wild West feel, but what makes this thing awesome is that it has 2 magazine tubes, so it holds 15 rounds. And because it's a Bullpup shotgun, it has the best hip fire of all the shotguns in the game, hence the extremes. So really, if you're going to go with shotguns in Battlefield, it should be one of these two, for the two obvious reasons that you see in front of you. So yes, this one has a lower rate of fire, but the capacity is, 15, and the hip fire is actually better, so you could carry this. And essentially, the only draw side to this gun is that it's not magazine fed, it is tube fed, so you have to load in the 15 shells one at a time. So when you run this gun dry, it's pretty much useless it has the longest reload in the game, so it's not very helpful on that. But as you see here with the frag rounds, if you load this thing with frag rounds, all of a sudden you have a lot more options. The gun does not become a close quarters gun, but it does become a one-man army, what the fuck is that guy flanking us, what is that? And you have a lot of options when you put frag rounds in. And this is discussing the longest reload in the game, but yeah, it is the longest reload in the game for obvious reasons, but I do like this configuration with the UTS. I don't always roll with frag, I usually roll with buckshot, but frag is really helpful in situations where people are, stuff like this, where, look at how many holes you can break into cover with this gun. So for the rest of this video, I didn't reload the test range, so at this point, the test range is ruined because of this gun and just running around the range for, about a minute with it, because you essentially make the whole thing pockmarked and chicken marked up. So this is my favorite shotgun in the game. I highly recommend it. If I wasn't rolling with that, I'd be rolling with the other one. Moving on to DMRs, this is the first or second DMR the game gives you, and it's the Mark 11. And Battlefield 3 had this gun, but it only held 10 rounds in the magazine, and in Battlefield 4 it holds 20, which is actually more accurate. So this is my favorite DMR in the game, because it has a very high fire rate, it has the fastest reload, and it's very manageable. So it cycles really quickly, and the recoil is very low. And the only real downside to this gun, I would say, is that it's not the most accurate gun, but this is how I configure it for close quarters. So it's very nice if you slap on a suppressor and a red dot, and it does do a lot of damage. So people will kind of complain that the DMRs are weak, but honestly, I rolled with DMRs for probably 10 hours straight, and I really didn't feel like they were weak. I did very much enjoy using the DMR. I used the DMRs before I unlocked the fully automatic carbines, so I had a lot of time going from pump action shotgun, which is single fire, to the DMRs, which are single fire, and I really actually enjoyed them. So the nice thing about the DMRs is that when you unlock all of the accessories for it, you really can configure it a number of ways. So when I want to go longer range, I'll put the Acog on and the iron sights, and then if I know it's only close range, of course, a suppressor and red dot. But the nice thing about the iron sight backup when you have Acog is that Acog is not helpful for close quarters at all. So the iron sight really is a drastic improvement when you're needing to switch out, and it switches very quickly. And the only thing that would be better would really be Acog and red dot, but the game won't let you do that because I think that'd be kind of slightly... it'd be just slightly too awesome, so there's no way they're going to actually allow that to happen. So I do recommend that if you are going to go with the DMR, that actually this is my favorite DMR because of how manageable it is, because of how fast the fire rate is, because how crisp the reload is, and it's just a very handy multi-purpose weapon. The other honorable mention in the DMR category is the N39 EMR, which was actually my favorite semi-automatic sniper rifle in Battlefield 3, and in Battlefield 4 it's a DMR and it holds 20 rounds, and it's a really nice gun, and it feels the most like a sniper rifle of all the other, DMRs. Most of the DMRs really feel kind of like watered down assault rifles, but this thing really does feel close to a sniper rifle once you start slapping on longer range optics. The reason why this is not my preferred DMR in Battlefield 4 is literally because it's horrible at hip firing, and it cycles really slowly. So I don't feel like the recoil is like unmanageable. However, I just feel like it takes forever for the gun to cycle around, and you'll notice it when I'm shooting in iron sights that you can actually see the bolt of the gun like shooting back, shooting forward, ejecting the shell. It just takes a really long time. And, oh yeah, this is Glock 18. Initially I was going to do pistols also with this video, but I'm going to cover that next video because it just took too long to cover all these topics. Moving on to carbines. Much like the shotgun, the best carbine in the game is the very first one the game gives you, which is the AK-5C. Now, what makes this gun excellent is that it has a reasonably low rate of fire, but the recoil is pretty much non-existent, and the gun is incredibly accurate, and the reload is very fast. It's not the fastest reload, but you will not be complaining that the reload is too slow. So, also the hip fire is very good on this gun as well, and, I mean, this is debatably the best carbine in the game. Now, personally, for my taste, it's not my favorite carbine, but I acknowledge that I actually do better when I use this gun and kind of kill better in more applications because this gun is good at close range, good at medium range, good at long range. It is a jack of all trades. It does not feel weak, and it really is an excellent gun. So, much like that first shotgun that they give you, this is also an excellent weapon that you could stick with for the entirety of your Battlefield career, and that would be fine, because the gun actually kind of warrants it. The only reason I am not a fan of this gun is that, when you roll around for 20 or 30 hours with semi-automatic weapons that shoot one bullet at a time, when you want to go to full auto, you want to go to the extreme of full auto. So that is the only reason I'm not going with this gun as my personal favorite carbine. Otherwise, I would say, you know what, it really is the best carbine in the game. It should be my favorite carbine if I was smart, but I'm rather biased and stupid, so it's not, but I do recommend it essentially to everyone, and you've probably used it a little bit and maybe moved on to something else, but really go back to this, get the unlocks for it, get the suppressor, the red dot, and, better foregrip, and you'll have a really nice time with this gun. So, I do feel like this is probably one of the better guns in the game, and compared to all the other carbines, I just feel like, yeah, you just get a lot more kills with this thing, so... Moving on to the extreme side of things with the carbines, with the exception of the Tavor, this is the fastest firing rate carbine in the game, and it is the ACR-W. So this is actually the carbine that I like to use and the carbine that I'm most comfortable with, but I don't actually think it's as good as the AK-5C because the recoil is very unmanageable at long range and at medium range. So this gun is really specifically a close quarters carbine, and if you are a close quarters type of player, or say you're an engineer hopping out of a tank, this might be the, fully automatic weapon you want to go with because it really is a bullet hose. And when you go from something that fires slow, a bullet hose is something that actually you're quite devastating with, because you have the trigger discipline from the shotguns and the DMRs. And so then when you go to something that's full auto, you really do just shred them. So I do like this gun because I do tend to favor close quarters combat. So, you know. As far as pistols go, which I will do a more thorough video on this subject later, the very first pistol the game gives you is a PT-26, and actually you should stick with that and unlock everything for it, and then move on after that, because this really is my go-to pistol for, you know, all of my applications. And I feverishly unlocked the shotgun and the Glock 18 and the 1911 and tried them out, but honestly, the PT-26 is really one of the best pistols in the game for, you know, just kind of multi-purpose. It's good at close quarters, it's good at hip firing, good at medium range, good at long range, it has good capacity. It has a high damage output. Like, all of the 45s in the game, even though they do more damage, they just carry so fewer bullets, and they don't do twice as much damage. So really, you're better off carrying the 9mm that hold a lot of bullets. And while the Glock 18 is fun, and the super shorty shotgun is fun, really the P226 is actually probably the best handgun in the game. So there is a pattern with Battlefield 4 where typically the first weapon they give you, while it might not be the very best, it is definitely in the top 2. So something to consider, and hope that was helpful.